All right, folks, here we are in the concourse area at the Conseco Fieldhouse. And if you ever get a chance to come down here, definitely worth it. The concourse area, like a museum for all the great history of the Indiana Pacers. Just heading on down here. Former coach Bob Hill, who I know Jonesy worked with as well in Canada when Bob Hill did some broadcasting. A little tribute here in one of the display cases of some of the international players they've had over the years. Former Raptor Primo Brezic, the gangster. And there's my man Jonesy, and we'll get the vlog started here. But I'm telling you folks, this is a place worth coming to. If you ever want to do a little road trip, make the haul down, Milwaukee, Indiana, Chicago, that type of thing, it's worth going. It's worth checking out the concourse area here, no doubt, Jonesy.
Well, it's a lot of history here. I was just overlooking at the picture of Mark Jackson, former Raptor, with all his time that he spent in Indiana. And one of the greats in Indiana history, Darnell Hillman, Dr. Duncanstein.
Another great tribute behind us here too.
Oscar Robertson, the man who some people will say, he's kind of in that argument like, you know, the old people in hockey have the Gretzky-Orr argument. A lot of people have the Robertson-Jordan, maybe now Kobe argument as we go forward. But lots of changes here in Indiana with Frank Vogel taking over as head coach. They fired Jim O'Brien yesterday. And Jay Triano says he doesn't expect things to change much, but at the same time, Eric, you know the Pacers are going to be much more focused tonight in their first game under Frank Vogel.
Yeah, and I think speaking to what Triano said, probably not a lot of opportunity or time simply to do much. You know, the announcement came down yesterday. He pretty much has a shoot around with his team this morning, and that's it. So I think it's going to be one of those things that you'll see maybe over the course of the next 5, 10, 15 games, and if they can get it together. And the big thing for this team, I guess, one of the reasons, or the main reason why the decision was made and the change was made, is because Larry Bird and management ownership felt that this is a playoff team, and thus they were underperforming. And you know, as much as they all had respect for Jim O'Brien, it was time to try and make a change and light a fire into the team, because they expected to be in the postseason, and this is not how they envisioned their sort of 3-year plan that they had. This was the year that they were supposed to be good and in the playoffs and starting to move down that road towards being contender, and it's clearly not happening at this point.
And the way they started out too, I mean, you got to look at this team. They had wins in Miami against the Heat, in Los Angeles against the Lakers, and recently they started a slide, and in an attempt to save the season, Larry Bird, you know, figured he'd make the change, and they wonder if the change didn't come from, and Bird was very matter-of-fact in his news conference when he talked about it. The change may have come from Herb Simon, the owner, up top, saying, you know what, we need to make a change, we need to make it now. Larry Bird, not a guy that, you know, maybe wanted to make the change, kind of let it play out. He likes to stay the course, but when the bosses say you make a move, you make a move, and it'll be interesting to see how they play tonight. Again, we were teasing about it the other day that when the manager visits the mound in baseball and he walks back, the first pitch after that is always a strike. and you just know that with a new coach and a new voice, as I said, the team's going to be more focused. And boy, Toronto needs a win. The Pacers are looking for a win, but Toronto also needs a win, Eric, in the worst way, sitting on an 11-game losing streak.
Well, and it sounds like they're going to be healthy for tonight in terms of the bodies that are on the road. You've still got Leandro Barbosa back in Toronto, along with Reggie Evans and Linus Clays as well. So in terms of the people that are with the team, they're healthy for tonight, and everything should be good to go for Toronto. But you're right, they're dying for a victory at this point, just to get that monkey off their back. And whether it comes tonight or not, because the opposite of a team maybe being inspired and with the new coach and everything else, the opposite might be, well, it's going to take us a couple of games to figure this guy out, and for the coach to figure out his rotation and what he wants to do. So there's always two sides of it as well. Either way, Toronto just simply needs to get one, because I firmly believe that a lot of this is mental at this point, especially with a young team. I mean, when you look down that roster, Jonesy, especially with, I mean, your most veteran guys on this team are Jose, Barbosa, Evans, and then Claza and Bargnani. Well, 2 of those 5 are on the team. 3 of them are back in Toronto hurt. So when you look past Andrea Bargnani and Jose Calderon and just look at the inexperience, Sonny Weems, DeMar DeRozan, Solomon Alabi, Joey Dorsey, Jared Bayless. I mean, the list goes on. You even throw Trey Johnson in there as a you know, a 10-day contract guy. Just look at the players that Toronto has and that Jay Triano has at his disposal right now. And it's not an excuse. It's a mere fact right now that there isn't a ton of overall talent right now. There is definitely a lot of inexperience And then when you're trying to add that to the mental anguish that weighs you down of an 11-game losing streak, how do you fight through that? How do you get out of it? I think that's where it kind of snowballs. You know, this team might be a team that's 10, 15 games below 500, but I still will continue to say I don't think they're as bad as what their record is. That said, their record is what it is.
Yeah, and look, a win would help everything. Just, I think, change the attitude of the team. And this wouldn't be a bad one to get tonight. Indiana will be focused, but at the same time, as Eric said, they'll be trying to figure some things out. Frank Vogel, a new young interim head coach, and Larry Bird has said this is like his job interview. So let's see what happens tonight. Maybe Toronto gets a win. No pregame tonight. We're up cold at 7 o'clock. Join us here from Conseco.